our wives' club meet up to chat and laugh about the things we apologise for. See, wives' club, that's a great idea. I'm going to have to join one of those. Strength in numbers and all that.
To support the
sisterhood.
The sorry sisterhood, you could call it. Chantel from Victoria says, I think saying sorry when you don't mean it is wrong. I'd never say sorry unless I meant it, especially when you're not wrong and the other person or persons in the argument are wrong.
I guess, yeah, it depends on frequency. If you're always...
Yeah, but you can initiate a sorry. You can say... Because you may have taken it wrong, and you can say, I'm sorry about my bits. Can't you? No.
Yeah.
So, apparently I've just been voted out of the Sisterhood of Sorry.
The Sorry Sisterhood.
With Kylie as the treasurer.
We're going to be talking to Joe Lamble about that. In all seriousness, later on.
Absolutely.
In our next hour, the disturbing claims that a girl was bashed just to make a YouTube video.
But straight ahead, we'll meet the author of the book Underbelly. He'll share the real story behind the gangland wars. It's next on The Morning Show. Well, it's Australia's own gangland war, and it's been hailed as the real-life version of The Sopranos.
Now, the murder trial for one of alleged underworld figures is underway in Melbourne. John Sylvester is the crime reporter for The Age newspaper, as well as the author of the book Underbelly. And he joins us now from Melbourne. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning.
John, why do you think these events have so captured our imagination?
You mentioned The Sopranos. Well, it is sort of real-life Sopranos. The funny thing is that many of these gangsters, they sort of live their lives like Hollywood gangsters, and they were larger than life. Crooks are supposed to hide and be secretive, but these people were strutting around the streets of Melbourne, shooting each other, and the funerals could have been shot in Hollywood. Unfortunately for them, they never seem to sort of read the end of the books on these sort of characters, where it always ends up with the baddies being locked up or killed. They seem to think they were bulletproof.
John, what initially got you so interested in the gangland wars and what was going on?
Well, I've been a crime reporter around Melbourne since the 70s, and you couldn't help but become totally enthralled by what was happening. As I said, these characters were known by their first names. They could have, they backed their lives on characters like Scarface. So it was like being part of a real-life movie.
OK, well, take us through some of the key players, John.
Oh, let's talk about, at the moment, Lewis Moran's murder is, the trial is underway in Melbourne. Lewis Moran was a career criminal, and he was smart enough to know towards the end that his name was on the list and he indeed would be murdered. The police changed his bail so that he would be less predictable in his movements, but he loved to go to the Brunswick Club to have a beer every night around 5 o'clock. So for hitmen, it was easy to know his movements. And the trial is underway now because he was shot dead exactly where he always stood, at the Brunswick Club.
Who else we got, John?
Somebody like Tony Mockbell, a multi-millionaire drug dealer since the 1990s. The total gangland cliche, the Ferrari, the jet ski, the penthouse, the mistress. Ultimately, he was convicted of cocaine trafficking, but just before he was convicted, he fled the country, and he was arrested in Greece. He's fighting his extradition, but he will come back to face further drug charges and 2 murder charges.
All right, and Carl Williams, of course?
Carl Williams, you couldn't get a less likely gangster. Pleasant face, slightly overweight, would look more fitting to be on a building site than to be a drug boss. But he was shot in 1999 by the Moran brothers, and he vowed revenge. And he started to kill all the Morans and anyone connected with the Morans. He paid lots of money for hitmen to do it, and ultimately it was only going to end with either him in jail or him dead. And ultimately he pleaded guilty to some offences, and he's now doing 35 years.
With most of the kingpins either behind bars, as you say, or dead, what's the status of the underworld in Melbourne as it stands now, John?
Well, the iron law of crime is that where there is a demand, there will be a supply, and there's still a huge amount of money to be made out of drugs. So the void that's been left by the Mockbells and the Williams and the Morans is already filled. There's no shortage of pills in Victoria or New South Wales, so the market's being filled. There are new groups that have moved in, and for police around the country, the challenge is to identify them before they become the next Tony Mockbell or the next Carl Williams.
All right, John, thank you very much for bringing us up to date on all that.
Just one question.
you.
You've been a crime reporter for such a long time. How well do you sleep at night, John?
I sleep very well, and unless a tree rubs against the house, I might wake up with a start.
Okay. Better you than me.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Bye-bye.
Well, a little later on this morning, why we're throwing out millions of tonnes of food every day.
But first, here's Glenn with a fantastic way to tone up. Glenn, thank you. Well, Marlene has been given the works by our makeover team, and soon we'll see what she thinks of her brand new look.
But next, the girls accused of bashing another teenager just to make a YouTube video. We'll get our jury's reaction when the morning show continues.
Now back to the morning show with Kylie and Larry.
Welcome back. On the way this hour, what will Marlene look like without 1 metre of hair? She is undergoing a huge morning show makeover. It's for charity, so don't miss the moment we reveal the results. It's coming up at 10:20.
I'd like to buy that hair. Plus, another celebrity is in trouble with the law, but what's Pete Doherty done this time? Find out when we talk gossip with Michael.
And could the secret to a good marriage be as simple as saying sorry? Now, it works for Madonna and Guy Ritchie, and later we'll see what Joe Landell thinks. Get the expert's opinion.
On to a very disturbing story now. 8 teenage girls in the United States have been charged with beating another teen so they allegedly could post the attack on YouTube. Now, we warn, we are going to show clips from the video, and some viewers may find the pictures disturbing.
Now, the girls have been charged with battery and kidnapping after luring Victoria Lindsay to a home in Florida. One of the teenagers turned the tape into police before it made it to the website.
So what does our Wednesday jury make of this disturbing story? Helen McCabe from the Sunday Telegraph is here on the couch, along with the host of the 2GB afternoon show, Chris Smith. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Helen, shocking, horrible. What do you make of this vicious attack?
I'm stunned by that attack.
Yeah.
I know that there is statistics showing that there's a growing number of girls getting involved in violent crimes, whether they're younger or older, and to glassings and drinking too much, and there is a trend towards women becoming more like young boys and men, but I don't understand it, and I don't think I ever will, why young girls would be beating up a fellow school student, I presume, or a friend of theirs. I'm never going to understand. All I can ask is what sort of upbringing have those girls had to think that that sort of behaviour is the sort of thing that you video and send to the police, or put on YouTube. Although one of them did give it to the police, so one of them obviously had some conscience at some point, but they've obviously had a pretty rugged upbringing themselves. That's the only thing I can take from it.
Chris, you surprised it was a group of girls?
Not necessarily girls. I just wondered, chicken or egg. The story says that they placed the attack on YouTube. How much of YouTube is inciting boys and girls to do this sort of thing? Like, this is such a mirror image of what happened at Marylands High this week, where you've got machetes, baseball bats, swords being used to attack kids at assembly in an alleged revenge attack. If they'd have found the kid, that would have been, you know, something out of a childcare centre at the end of the day. I spoke to Barbara Holbrook, the former magistrate, who reckons we've got this societal dysfunction, and we need to get into families where parents are addicted, don't care where their kids are, don't care what their kids view on the internet, and we need to change that at the grassroots. Now, this ain't easy, and do we turn it around at all?
Yeah, look, I completely agree, and I think that is the issue. That, well, what is actually happening to children at grassroots? I also think you're right about YouTube, that it's kind of desensitising people, so that they see the kind of phenomenon of themselves being on YouTube and being able to put a video on YouTube, and it's kind of desensitising them to the actual act of violence.
Exactly. The old peer group used to exist in the playground. Now it's millions of people, and I can do better than that and better than that.
Yeah, the norms have changed. Yeah, and the norms have changed. That's normal now. They see it so often, you know.
Okay, in other news, it's been revealed that families throw away around a third of the food that they buy. It amounts to millions of tonnes each year. Chris, you waste not, want not type of guy?
My dad used to forcibly sit at the dinner table and say, "You will not leave the table until your plate's clean."